Okay, I think I'm live now. It buffered forever, so I finally refreshed it because it buffered for like 3 minutes. So I think I'm live. I think we're good. Okay, so this is a whole new format. I don't like it. I want Google Hangouts back. We all need to protest and send YouTube lots and lots of mail telling them to get Google Hangouts back. Because I'm going to have to figure out how to get other live people on here as well. So my husband has Wirecast, and I'm probably just going to have to figure that out. So it looks better, and I have this fly that's driving me crazy. I tried killing the fly beforehand, but I didn't get it. Okay, so how are you all tonight? I'm doing good. We are going on family vacation next week to Arizona. So there's going to be about 60 or so of us flying in from all over, and we're going to a retreat there. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to try to film the last part of the series. I'm like rocking the chair. I noticed that was a bad habit I was doing. I got to stop. I got to sit still. Okay. So I'm going to try to film the last part, and I'm going to try to premiere it for next Monday. And then you guys can still have your live chat and everything, but I will be in Arizona next Monday night. So this is kind of cool because I can see the chat in a better spot. I do like that. I do like the chat part of it better, but I didn't like the whole setup. That was a little strange. So hi, Holly, and I will see Holly next week. That'll be fun. So yeah, I wanted to get into showing grace in your marriage. Last week we talked about showing grace in your parenting. So my husband preached a really good message last night, and it's on his alternate channel if you want to go check it out. On I can't remember what it's called, Give Me Liberty Baptist channel, I think. It's a picture of a building on it. But he's been preaching a really good series about laws and what laws we should follow and why we should still follow the laws that we do and things like that. And he was talking about, how a lot of people in this movement, especially, I feel like they have a checklist, the ones that even want to be a pastor. It's okay, well, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this in order to be a pastor. All the things that you should just want because you love your wife, getting married, finding a wife, first of all, and having children and, reading through the Bible and all these things that you should just want as a, good Christian man. A lot of guys are going into it thinking, well, I have this checklist. I have to do this and this and this and this and this. And a lot of people do that when it comes to obeying God. Well, I want to have a happy life, so I have to do this, 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 and it's like a checklist. But marriage, it can go along with that. And Gina just put sorry, I'm getting distracted. Give Me Liberty Baptist 1611 is the name of the alternate YouTube channel. So check that out. He has a couple strikes on his main channel. So he has to put the ones that he really talks about sin on the alternate channels. So, but the whole checklist thing can go with marriage too. So while he was preaching, I was in the mother baby room with Kelly. I just nursed her and she was playing around on the ground. So I was jotting down some thoughts as well when it comes to marriage, because you can take a lot of the same principles and apply it to marriage. And it kind of went along with my whole, showing grace in your marriage. So, marriage is more than a checklist, because he was talking about too, how would you feel as a spouse if your husband had a list of rules for you on the fridge that you had to follow every day? She has to make me meals. She has to pick up my socks. She has to clean the house. If she doesn't, that's it, gone. And a lot of people approach living for the Lord and doing right as just a checklist. And as a wife, you would feel awful if your husband was like, okay, well, you did all the rules today, so I guess I'll stay with you another day. You would feel awful if it was that way, because marriage is supposed to be both of you loving each other and, you're sticking with each other through the good times and the bad. It's more than just a checklist. Okay, you do your part, I'll do my part. So a lot of the same principles can work for that. So, when you love someone, it covers a multitude of sins. And you can overlook a lot when you have the love. when it comes to your spouse. And sometimes, love is not always a happy feeling. There's a lot of days where I'm irritated at the whole world. So love is not always a happy feely emotion. Love is oftentimes a choice. Back when you and your husband chose to spend the rest of your lives with each other, you were choosing to stay with him even through the bad days. You were choosing to stay with him when he hurt your feelings, and you were choosing to stay with him through thick and thin. And so, you should never even have the option of divorce on the table. And that's just one way to show grace, is just never, ever saying the D word. In our house, that is the divorce word. It's never been uttered. That sounded funny. It's never been uttered. It's never been spoken of. It's never even been an option. It's just not on the table. So, oftentimes when it comes to the one that we're closest to, we lack the grace. I feel like we lack the most grace with the people that we're closest to. Why is it that you feel like you can tell your husband anything that comes to mind that's irritating you about him, but yet when it comes to people, if you work in the workplace, when it comes to people in your church, you're a lot more reserved and you're very careful with what you say. So I don't understand sometimes why we try to hurt the ones that we're closest to. So we really need to be aware as women of our words. I feel like in the Bible, a lot of times when the Bible is addressing women, it addresses their mouth or, how we use our words. And I feel like because for women, it can be a trap. It can be a hard thing to control your mouth, to control your words and the things that comes out of your mouth. So, yeah, and I feel like with our spouses, especially for those of us who, divorce is not an option. It's like some of us think, well, since divorce isn't an option, I can treat them however I want. And that's just not the case. Obviously, I think a lot of newer Christians that are men, come into this movement, and we kind of saw an example of this this past weekend with some stuff on Facebook. But I feel like they come in beating their chest and saying I want this submissive woman, hear me roar. And they have a twisted sense of submission. They feel like they can lord it over their wife. They can act however they want towards her. They can physically abuse her. They can emotionally abuse her. They totally skip over all the preaching that the preachers do about marriage and being a good husband. They skip over the parts in the Bible that tell the husband that he is to love his wife. The husband has his role in marriage as the wife does. So they only focus on the woman's part. And as women, we need to not only focus on the man's part. We need to not be love your wife like a parrot. We need to do our part in marriage as well. So, just like we show our kids grace, we also need to show our husbands grace in a lot of different situations. So I'm going to go through some of them. But first off, let me look at the chat and see if I've missed anything. Hi, everyone that's in there. Cheyenne and Amber and Chloe and Shara and Gina and Holly. We'll see if I missed anyone. Kimmy, how you doing? Oh, and if any of you are homeschool moms, I wanted to do a shout out to this too. Mrs. Joanne Jimenez did an amazing homeschool seminar. They uploaded it today on Verity's channel, I believe. It's really, really good. It's packed full of information. I want whatever book she's flipping through the whole time. But she put together a whole thing with like slides, and just she kind of went over everything from A to Z, different curriculums, different laws, different like Homeschool Legal Defense Association. She talked about them. She talked about routine in your life. And I just could not believe all that she crammed into, I think it was an hour or something. But go check that out. It is Mrs. Joanne Jimenez did an amazing homeschool seminar. If you have not seen that, it has a lot of good info. And especially if you are just starting out, it's a great place to start. A great, great place to start. So, yes. But let's jump into it. So what are some instances that we can show our husband's grace? Okay. So first off, the small things. And obviously this whole grace thing is a big step for me. And it's something I'm working on as well, because I am by nature a very impatient person, and I can tend to be harsh on people. I can tend to have very high expectations for people. And when they don't meet those expectations, I get upset. So I am a work in progress when it comes to this. I've come far with my children. I think we all grow throughout the years. And I'm a much more graceful mama now than I was when my first was born. But it's still something I work on every day and I have to be aware of every single day. So first off, let's go over the small things that we can show grace with our husbands with. So the first thing is obviously habits. And most men tend to have worse habits than women. And I'm talking about bodily habits. It's so funny because we play this newlywed game every year. And one of the things was, what's a bad habit? It was like he would ask the wives things, then he would ask the husband things. And one of the questions for the wives was, what's your husband's worst habit? One of his bad habits that drives you crazy. And he knew exactly what he does that drives me crazy. And it's something small, but it's just, I was always chewing on a straw. He's always chewing on a straw, and he'll be talking to me. We'll be in the car and he'll be talking to me with the straw in his mouth. And sometimes he'll take the straw out and like little drops of spit. Oh, I hate it. So I hate that habit. So this goes along with, this is just one of his habits. So he knows I hate that. But men have a lot of bad habits. They belch, they do other things. They, leave their socks on the floor for us to pick up. Whose husband does that? They do a lot of things like that. That would be very, very easy for us to get very irritated at. So I am a lot better now than I was when we first got married. It used to drive me crazy. I would just be getting so mad as I would go through the house and I have to pick up after him and pick up his dirty socks. And I've totally changed when it comes to that as well. I just pick it up and don't even worry about it anymore. It's, I read an article by a lady, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I had read an article about a lady once that was talking about all the stuff that she used to pick up after her husband. And then one day he was in an accident. He died. And she was talking about how much she hated not being able to pick up after her husband anymore. And that really stayed with me. So, what I've kind of started doing is anytime I have to pick something up, I just say, I'm happy I have a husband. Thank you, Lord, for giving me a husband. There's a lot of ladies that don't have good husbands. There's a lot of ladies that are single and their heart's desire is to get married and have children. So I really try to that really put it in perspective for me. So maybe, bad moods or hangriness. My husband's really never, the only time he is angry is, if we have an 8-hour delay because of the airlines, but that's another thing. He gets very hangry. So I don't know if your husband is like mine, but the only time he's really in a bad mood is if he's really hungry. And so, just learning to just kind of keep your thoughts to yourself when he's in a bad mood. Don't lash out when he's in a bad mood. And I know there's a lot of times I'm in a bad mood and my husband shows me grace. So, try to show him grace if he's hungry or angry because he's in a bad mood. Amber said, I get hangry, especially while pregnant. Yes, a hungry husband makes a hangry husband. So, yeah. Holly said she read that article too. It was a good article. I'll have to find it and try to post it on the page on Facebook. It's a good article. But what about showing grace when he makes mistakes? Okay, we all make mistakes. We're all human. You don't like being yelled at when you make a mistake. I don't like being yelled at when I make a mistake or when I forget something. So try to show him a little grace when he makes a mistake. Don't go off on him. Don't freak out on him. Don't make him feel like an idiot, because you're probably going to mess up the next day or that day. So, just show some grace when he makes mistakes. So, how about when he says stupid things? Maybe even just saying, stupid things to you or about you. That's a time that you can show grace. And one way to show grace is just ignore it. If it really got to, or just try not to be overly sensitive. Obviously sometimes we're more sensitive than others because of hormones, or if you've had a bad day or something. And hopefully your husband's tuned in enough that he knows if you've had a bad day, you probably shouldn't say something stupid. But if he does say something stupid, just try to take it with a grain of salt and not overreact and not lash out, because you say stupid stuff and he's going to say stupid stuff, mean comments, right? If he says mean comments, I don't know. My husband doesn't really say mean comments. So I guess if he did say something mean, you could just return it by saying something nice about him. I don't know if that would work. Or if he's like, the house is such a mess. What have you been doing all day? And you're like, you know what? I agree. The house is a mess. I'm sorry. I had a bad day with the baby. With me, it's Kelly. If I didn't have older kids helping, I would get nothing done because she is such a high maintenance baby. So, those of you that have little kids, it's got to be hard. And it was hard when I had little kids. So, just don't fly off the handle when he says something. And we all have our buttons, and obviously with your husband, don't push his buttons, and hopefully he won't push your buttons. But, yeah, Amber said, mine insists on making me laugh when I just want to be mad. He always wins that battle. Mine's tried that before. It's like, as a woman too, you're just like, stop making me laugh. I want to be mad at you. But then sometimes if you're married to a goofball, then that doesn't work very well. That's funny. So remember that you set the tone in the home. Okay, so if he walks in from work and you're just a grouch and freaking out at the kids, and mine hates it when he walks home and I'm like yelling at the kids for something. So try to, especially around the time that he's going to be home, set the tone in the home. Try to have things picked up if you're able to. Try to have a nice ambiance going, and just getting along with each other, and the kids are under control. Just try to make it a place that he wants to come home to. And yes, that's so old fashioned and that's just so 1950s. But, that's what men like. Men like stability in the home. They like a nice, calm home. That is their island. That is their peace in this world that we live in. So try to make it something that he looks forward to coming home to. Yeah, so so those are some things that you can show him grace when it comes to the small things. But let's go over some do's and don'ts. So do not make it tense. We were just kind of talking about that. Don't make the home a battlefield. Don't make it to where he feels like he has to walk on eggshells, like he can't say anything because you're going to start crying, you're going to get emotional, you're going to fall apart. Don't make it tense like that. It's not a fun place for him or the kids to live in. Don't remember every mistake. And my husband was just joking about this in the morning. He was saying that all women have a notebook in their head and they can remember, back to August 5th of 2015, what you said in an argument. And that is not completely true. We do have, not completely true. We do have a good memory, but I cannot even remember the last time we even fought. I can't even remember the last time we even fought, or the last, I can't even, thinking back. And as you're married longer, I think the fights get fewer and fewer in between. At least hopefully they are, as you grow together and you learn more about each other. Hopefully the fights are getting less and less, because to be honest, the stupid fly. When we were first married, it is it's a learning ground. You have to get to know each other, and you have to learn what not to do and what to do when it comes to making each other happy or making each other unhappy. So it is a learning ground. But, now that we've been married almost 19 years, it's gotten a lot easier, I feel like. So people are always talking about, marriage is so hard. And it is, in a way. And I know, especially for some, it is. But marriage is one of the best things in my life. And my husband is one of the best things in my life. So it's not really hard for me. There's obviously rough patches that we all go through, but it's not like I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, my marriage. I wake up every day happy that I'm married and I'm, married to a good man. And so it's one of the better things. It's one of the best things in my life. So, but I know for some of you, it is hard. And I feel for you. And I know in your situation, it's going to be a lot harder to show grace to your husband. But in that situation, God is glorified more through your life. He receives more glory when you're in a harder situation, especially in a hard marriage. And so anything that you do that goes above and beyond what maybe any of us think we could do, God is finding favor with you. So just remember that. But yeah, don't make it tense. Don't remember every mistake. Don't be unapproachable. This is another thing. Don't let your husband come in and be like, hey babe, and you're like, what do you want? What? Just try to be pleasant. Try to be approachable for him to talk to. Some women complain that their husband never talks to me, never does this, never does that. Well, are you a grouch all the time? Are you a pain to be around? Don't be unapproachable. Be approachable. Be someone that he can confide in and he can talk to, and he can come to you without feeling like he's going to get his head what's the phrase? His head not snapped off. What am I thinking of? Not chopped off. I feel like you're going to snap his head off. But yeah, that just goes along with don't be chewed off. There we go. His head chewed off. I could not think of the word. Oh my. Sometimes the words just flow and then sometimes there's nothing there. So yes, you're going to bite his head off. That's it. I knew it wasn't something with chopping, but don't be an angry person. Don't be constantly like a tornado going through the house, especially when he's home. I try to get all the cleaning, all the school. One thing that Miss Joanne said today in her homeschool seminar was really good. And she was talking about, you want the majority of your schoolwork done before your husband gets home. And that's a big one with me. I really, really try to have all schoolwork done because honestly, when I'm doing school is when I'm the most stressed out. It's not something that I particularly enjoy. I know I need to, and I know I have to, and there's no other option for me. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure, at least for me. And because I'm doing a lot. I'm teaching a lot, 5 at one time. So it's not my favorite part of the day. So we start early and we try to get done by 1. And he's usually home by like 1:30 or 2 from his part-time job. And then when he was at the church, he's not home till like 4, something like that, 4 or 5. So I try to get it done early on. That way I can be pleasant when he comes home and I won't be angry mommy. Don't be angry mommy when your husband's home. Try not to be angry mommy. Try to make it a happy place. When dad and mom are there together in the house, it's a happy place. And your kids will remember that. So, but yeah, let's go over some do's. Okay. So do have fun. Obviously, try to have fun with your husband, try to have fun with your kids. He fell in love with you. He was attracted to you. He chose you out of all the women in the entire world. He chose you. So I know most of us, we have 30 pounds on us since we got married because of all the kids we've had. We all have 30, 40 pounds we need to lose. We all are tired. We have a baby named Kelly that won't sleep. We're all really exhausted, but still try to make time to laugh with your husband, to have fun with him. Do activities that you used to do. If you have older kids that can watch your younger kids, go on a hike. My husband really likes going swimming, like finding a lake or finding a beach along like Michigan or something. He really likes water. So we try to make a point to go as a family, or I'll just go with him. Just go to lay out in the sun and go in the water the whole day. Just do something fun like that. It will rejuvenate both of you. It'll charge his batteries. So even just having fun with your husband, you're showing him grace as well. So Holly said, I usually warn my husband before he gets home if we've been having a rough day. Haha. Yeah, I've done that before too. Or you'll do like tag team parenting. Your husband gets home and you're like, tag, you're it. I got to go get a coffee. I just need a little bit of Starbucks time right now. And then you'll leave the house and just have an hour or so to yourself. I have definitely done that. And on the really rough days, you might need to. And hopefully your husband will show you grace and he will give you some of that. But what about your husband? You can do the opposite for him. What if he's had a really, really rough day at work? If your husband works a secular job and he tells you it was a really rough day, try to make it pleasant for him when he gets home, or try to, let him do a hobby. I was going to talk about hobbies for the husband later on. So, learn to be flexible. There is no schedule in my house. As far as like after dad's home, my husband is just so, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. Hey, let's go here. Hey, you want to do this? And he's just always like coming up with these ideas and wanting to go do it. So I've really learned I came from a house where like everything was planned out to the T, like every minute of the day. You breathe here and you drink a glass of water here and you eat here. So I came from that type of house. So I had to really let go a lot of the just wanted to be regimented, so I had to really learn to be flexible when I married him, because his dad was a lot like him. Hey, let's go here. Let's go do this. Let's go on a hike. Let's go, an hour away and I don't know, go look at this. So I had to be learn to be flexible. So learn to be flexible for, things that your husband wants to do. So Amber said, my husband likes it when I'm extra gentle around him when he's had a bad day. Well, of course he does, because we want our husbands to be extra gentle with us when we've had a horrible day, when we've been puked on and spat, and spit up on and had pooped on and had to clean up messes. We want to be extra gentle. So, try to show them the same grace. So, yeah. And you know what? That's how my husband is exactly. Mrs. P said, as long as I have dinner ready, he's happy. Mine does not like it. I try to make it. That's another thing. Work around your husband's schedule. He is Tuesdays and Wednesdays. He works his part-time job. So when he gets home at 1:30 or 2, he wants a hot meal. And there's been a few times where I've had to run an errand, be here, and he does not like that. So I really try to make a priority to just block out the few hours right during the time that he's going to be home and have I usually do those days I do big meals because he's really hungry. He works a very physical job. So I do big meals on those days. So I try to have it ready. He'll text me like usually 10 o'clock in the morning and he'll tell me, okay, I'm going to be home at 2. I'm going to be home at 1. So then I have an approximate time and I have the dinner ready by that time when he gets home. So, figure out what your husband likes. Different husbands have different needs. Like us as women, different women have different needs. So, figure out what he likes and then do it. So Catherine said, my husband always wants a hot meal. So planning dinner to be ready when he gets home doesn't happen, but he usually lets me know how soon he will want dinner. Yeah. Husbands are good about that. For me, I'm not like this vague. My husband's not very vague. We just kind of both tell each other what we want. So if I want something, he did this funny meme on his Facebook the other day about how, it was like this cartoon where the woman tells the husband where she wants to go to eat. And then he's like, hey, you're not my wife. And then she pulls off her mask and it's an alien. And she's right. You got me, because she had told him where she actually wanted to eat. But I was like, I always tell you where I want to eat. And I do. He'll be like, where you want to eat? And I'll say, okay, I want pizza, or I want Mexican, or I want, I'm always the one suggesting. I know what kind of food I want. So there's no problem with that. But, don't be vague. Don't be like this mysterious woman that your husband can never figure out. Just tell him what you want. Tell him what makes you happy. And if you don't know what makes you happy, then figure out what makes you happy and then tell him. So men don't like vagueness. I don't think so. Does he stock the shelves? No, he does not work at an actual Walmart store. He works at a distribution center, which is a huge building. And that's where all the stuff comes that's in the store. So like he has to pick, he has to haul, like he is constantly lifting and loading and all the boxes that go out to the stores. So he's not actually working in the Walmart store. When he first started, he worked in the freezer, which was like 30 below, and that was really, really tough on him. But he's just constantly getting off the forklift, loading, unloading, lifting, it's crazy. It keeps him skinny. So he's really, really hungry when he gets home. But, like I said before, create a home of peace. And I am going really slow through these. I have another page and a half. Create a home of peace and, be your husband's confidant. Let him know that he can trust in you. You can see these notes. This was on one of Lana's notebooks. I just wrote them out. So most of the pages were full of scribblings, but it worked. Be trustworthy. Don't go around blabbing personal stuff that he doesn't want you blabbing. My husband's pretty private when it comes to some things. So in other ways we're not, because I know our lives are on YouTube and he preaches and, but for some of the private things, stuff that goes on in our home and stuff between me and him, we don't like that to be an open book for everyone. And anyone that wants to know that about us is kind of weird, honestly. It's like in Pastor Anderson's sermon, there's, what is it called? Sycophant. It was a really cool word. It's my favorite word now. Just someone who's obsessed, wants to know every little thing about your life. There's some things that need to be private. So if your husband wants you to keep some things private, don't be blabbing it all over Facebook. And don't be telling the whole world when he wants it to be, to be quiet. So be patient with him. That's a huge thing, being patient, especially if you're married to someone who's high strung and he wants to choke all the United Airlines people. Yep, be patient. If you have to, just kind of step aside and sit there calmly. Sometimes you just got to be patient with him. He's patient with you, so be patient with him. But give him freedom, encourage his hobbies. A lot of times men need to have a hobby. They need an extra outlet, just like as women, we need extra outlets. Gently Led Sisters is one of my hobbies. My piano, my music is one of my hobbies. So we have our hobbies. So encourage him to have his hobbies. One of my husband's hobbies is kayaking. And I can tell that when he is able to at least once a week go out on the river in his kayak, he just is a lot calmer. It really helps with the tension. And obviously he's, working every day of his life to support our family, doing his, he never has a day off. So he's working part-time at his Walmart job, and every other day he's here at the church. So he's working hard. So most of us are married to hard workers. Let them have a hobby or an outlet. You don't have to be with them every single evening of the week. Learn to be independent, learn to have your own schedule sometimes if you need to. Give him space. So that is one way that you can show him grace. So another thing is, do not talk bad about him to others. That is a way to show him grace. Even if you've had a fight, which we've covered this before, but I feel like it needs to be said again. Even if you've had a fight with him, do not go around telling everyone about it. Don't call up your mother, cry to your mom about it. I don't think I've ever told my mom about any of our fights we've had, because you guys will patch it up and you'll get over it, but your mom will not forget that. So, and your dad will not forget that his son-in-law hurt his daughter's feelings. Do not tell your family about your fights. Keep it private. Things like that. So La Familia said, her husband is extremely easygoing. One thing she works hard at is making sure the room is neat and tidy and cool in temperature. So when he gets home from work, he can rest up. That's a good way to do that. I am not so good at this, which my husband shows me a lot of grace when it comes to this, because my room is like laundry central. I don't fold laundry on my couch because so many people use it. So I fold laundry on my bed. So the laundry sometimes tends to pile up in baskets around my bed. So then you're kind of walking, my room's tiny, so you're kind of walking around clothes. So I really try hard to keep up with it, but I'm not always the greatest. But we all have our little areas that we struggle in, don't we? So Yes. Talking about a spouse is to others is horrible because you're just giving them ammunition. You are, and they're not going to forget it. So you might forget it, but they will not. So let's go over some of the big things. And I'm also going to talk about when it's time, when there are some times that you don't need to show grace. And I'm going to go over those too. But how about showing grace in the big things? So some of these, I might have had some experience with some of these, but not others. So I will ask for your input when it comes to them. But I'm also going to say I have counseled women who have been going through this. I've been in the ministry almost 20 years. So I have counseled women that are going through this, and some of them have had good outcomes and some of them have not had good outcomes, but I've never personally experienced it. So, but let's go over this. How about financial decisions? Okay. This is a big one. This can affect your whole life, right? So you need to forgive and forget. Our husbands are going to make stupid decisions sometimes when it comes to money. My thing in the last few years has just been, well, my husband wants to make a purchase. I just tell him if I don't agree, because I don't like putting anything on credit. I like paying cash for everything, but there are some instances where we've had to. So I will just tell him, it's up to you, babe. You got to figure out how to pay for it. So, and as a non-working mom, as a stay-at-home mom, I'm able to say that. And he knows that he's going to have to accept responsibility for that. So, there was a question posed in one of the groups the other day, and they were asking what to do because their husband gambles away a lot of their money and spends it on gaming. And I think as women, we just want to fix everything. So, our first instinct is, oh my goodness, I have to go get a job because we're not going to be able to pay the bills. We're going to be kicked out of our house. Well, for me personally, I really feel like sometimes men, we just have to let them accept the responsibility of their decisions and their actions. So, and I've counseled women with this too. Most men, if they are good men, they will rise to the occasion and they will step up and they will do what they need to do to pay the bills. So I have told women before, if he is gambling away the money, you might just have to let him figure out how he's going to pay the bills. And if he's not able to pay the bills, then you're going to have to let him take the responsibility for that. And they're like, well, what if we get kicked out of our house? And that's the thing. If you do get kicked out of your house, it's not the end of the world. Is there family that you could possibly go live with until he got his life together and he decided to be a man and step up? I do not ever believe in divorce, but I do believe in separation at different times for different situations. That's my feeling about it. Separation would be for, homelessness, obviously. When there is physical abuse, when there is infidelity, I do believe a time of separation is okay for him to come to his senses and to get counseling, to get his life back in order before you are together again. I do not ever condone divorce, but I do believe that sometimes situations call for separation. They can really wake the man up. I've seen it personally. I've been involved with people, like I said, for almost 20 years, and I've seen different situations where this is played out. And the woman did separate and went to go live with family for a while, and it really woke the man up. And they're back together now. They have a great marriage. They came out stronger for it. So, there is times when maybe he just has to accept the responsibility of his financial decisions. So you're going to have to let him do that. You can't micromanage him. You're not his mother. You're his wife. So you can't micromanage everything he does. How about when he has, let me read these chat real quick. So Morgan, I hate that as well. So let's see. Brittany said, if you tell the wrong person, it could end up with them bringing it up after it's all over. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. People don't forget it. You might forget it and move on, but other people that you tell about are not going to forget it. So it's just not worth it. When you guys fight, just keep it between you. So what about when he's hurt you over and over again? Emotionally, I'm not talking physically, I'm talking emotionally. He is mean. He says mean things. this is a hard one because as women, we want to be cherished and we want to be loved. And, I would just say don't return fire with fire. That's really hard because if someone's being mean to you, you just want to lash out at them. But I would just, try to be sweet. You can catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? That's not Bible, but it is true when it comes to relationships as well. So turn the other cheek. This is a way you're going to have to show him grace. And you're the only one who can show him it. He is being mean. If he's being vindictive, don't return fire for fire. That is what I would say. So, and then what about infidelity? Let's touch briefly on this. I know some of you have experienced this with your husband's infidelity. I have not. I don't have much advice I can give because I have never been through it. Like I said, I have counseled people that have been through it, friends in my way past, but some divorced their husbands and then some did not. They went on to have happy marriages after the infidelity. They're some of the most gracious women I've ever seen. I don't know how I would react because I've never been in that situation. I would hope I would show my husband grace if, but, I don't know because I know God gives you the grace to go through things as you go through them. So I don't think I'll ever have to experience that, and better not. So, if you've been through infidelity, I do not have experience with this. This would have to be, you would really have to let God work through you. And I would hope that your husband would be repentant and be wanting to change and would be wanting to be held accountable to someone. I've noticed that in the situations past, the ones that I've dealt with, the ones that go on to repeat the infidelity are ones that have no accountability. They were caught, but they were sorry because they were caught. They weren't repentant and they didn't tell people on their own. They were just caught. And the ones that I have seen that have accountability, they are accountable to someone. Like they have no locks on their phones. They have no secrets from their wives. They have like filters on their internet, on their computer, if they're dealing with pornography or something. They have all these steps in place for accountability. They go on to have happy marriages. So maybe get some accountability in your life when it comes to that. Let a pastor know. Let the pastor be praying for you. If your pastor does counseling, my husband has counseled people before. So, go through counseling, work together. That's one of the biggest situations in life I think that you would have to show grace to someone is when there has been infidelity. And I pray I never have to go through it. My heart goes out for you that have had to go through it. And if you have gone through it, then, that is the biggest opportunity, I think, to show grace to your husband is going through a situation like that. So what would be your advice if a spouse is being physically abusive? My question is hypothetical, of course. I was going to go over that in a time not to show grace. If he is being physically abusive and he is especially being physically abusive to the children, you need to get out of there. Like I said, I do not condone divorce, but I do believe in separation for different situations. This is just my personal opinion. I believe my husband feels the same way. You're allowed to have different opinions, but when it comes down to physically hurting someone, there are steps that need to be taken. And when it comes to sexual abuse, if your husband is sexually abusing any of your children, it needs to be reported to the authorities. And you need to get out of there. And he needs to go to prison and hopefully rot because your children are your number one. You are their protector. And if they are being hurt by one of their parents is supposed to be their protector as well, that's a horrible situation. So physical abuse, you need to go find trusted family members to stay with. And he needs to get help. He needs to be accountable to someone. He needs to be repentant before you'll be back together. If there's any sort of danger at all, you need to remove yourself from the situation. And if he does repent and he does get straightened out, I do believe that people can change when it comes to that, but it's going to be an uphill battle. So just be aware of that. But hopefully he would get into a good church and get some good instruction and have accountability to a pastor and things. But yes, sexual abuse, absolutely not. If you find out of any sexual abuse at all, report it immediately to authorities. Remove yourself from that situation. Get your kids out of that. And don't ever let him be around your kids again. That's my personal opinion. So, yes, I agree, Holly. So Holly said, if there's physical abuse going on, especially if there are children involved, they need to leave ASAP. I definitely agree. Definitely. Let's see, what was this said? What if it was your dad who was abusive? I'm glad we moved away, but do have some PTSD a bit. I trust my husband, though. He's always been there, even as friends. What if it was your dad who was abusive? You need to get away from him and don't have anything to do with him. Again, that's what I would say, especially if it was sexual abuse. Because think about it. If you and your husband have children, eventually, if he hurt you, he will hurt your children. And so now you are your children's biggest protector. And if I knew of anyone in my family that was a pervert, I would never allow my children around them ever. I would not go to any family function that they were at. Nope. Absolutely not. So, would divorce be a legitimate option in the case of rape or molestation? Are you talking about with children? If you did it with your children? I would probably just separate forever. I would just never be with him again. But I would not get divorced. I know, different people have different opinions about this. The only thing that I don't know, I would have to look into the laws about this. I don't know much about this because I know if you're married to a pervert and you don't get divorced, I don't know if he could ever come back and because you're not divorced, have rights to the children. So that is one thing I would look into. If it came down to, I would just want to make sure he never, ever, ever had the opportunity to be near my children again. So I would do whatever means possible to keep that from happening. So obviously, in the Bible days, if the government still did things biblically, then this wouldn't even be an issue. But it is an issue because this is in America in 2019. So, if they were just, dealt with the biblical way, then this would not even be a topic of discussion. But they're not. So you can just pray that they go to prison forever, but sometimes they don't. So I would have to look into the laws and things when it came to that. So my family guilt trips me to visit him since he's old, and we did visit, but affected me for days. My husband thinks we should stay away too. If he definitely, and I don't even know what type of abuse it is, and you don't need to say, but if it was sexual abuse, you need to stay away. That's my opinion. So, my grandfather was abusive to my grandma until her brothers chased him with a machete. Hey, whatever works, right? He never laid a hand on my grandmother again. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that she had brothers that helped her out. Sometimes with guys, they need to be shown that, hey, you mess up and you're going to have consequences. So obviously that woke him up. Yes, Marie, I agree. Stay away. No need to see him whatsoever. If there was, no. There, like I said, in the Bible days, it wouldn't even be an issue because he wouldn't be here anymore. So I would not visit him. A lot of people are like, you need to forgive, you need to forgive, you need to forgive. And while I agree in a way, for your own sake, you want to move past it in your life. But when there has been when the abuser has not asked for forgiveness, there is no means to forgive him, if that makes sense. So if he is still unrepentant about it and he still doesn't care that it happened, then you don't need to bend over backwards trying to have a relationship with him. I would just stay away. So, but yeah, let's go through. But yeah, so when that was the time, we kind of skipped ahead, but that was a time not to show grace. Physical, sexual abuse. How about doing sinful or illegal things? You do not need to do that with him. If he is breaking God's law, if he is, having you be his sidekick and you rob banks, obviously the word of God, is over his authority as a husband. So you do not need to do that. Stealing, drugs, sexual abuse of any kind needs to be, the sexual abuse needs to be reported immediately. So especially if he's in leadership. If he's in leadership in the church and he's living a totally private life at home and expecting you to do the same with him, you do not need to, because he's your husband and you're being submissive, disobey God's word in order to do that and then go to church and fake and pretend like you're happy. That's especially if he's in leadership, in a leadership position, because his sin will affect a lot of people. So, affairs need to be dealt with. If your husband is in a leadership position and he has an affair, don't sweep it under the rug. It needs to be dealt with. The pastor needs to know. If he is a pastor and he is having an affair, then maybe your former pastor can help with that situation, but no one needs to be pastoring that's having affairs. That's, doing illegal things. That definitely needs to be, as your wife, it's your obligation to let someone know about that. So, because like I said, his sin will go on to affect a lot of people. But let's go over real quick. It's almost been an hour. Wow. Okay, let's go over real quick. What about if your husband's newly saved? What are some ways that you can show him grace? Because I know a lot of you on here, you do have husbands that are newly saved. So, one of the things, yes, Brittany, go ahead and ask your question. I'll get back to it as soon as I'm done real quick with this. But one of the things that you can show your husband grace is by letting him grow, being patient with him as he's growing as a Christian. Do not lord things over him, shoving all your Bible knowledge. I know the Bible so well. We should be doing this. We should be doing this. And the pastor says this. Don't look up to your pastor more than you look up to your husband. Okay. So encourage your husband. Tell him, I'm just so glad to be married to a strong man of God like you, and follow him. If he makes a decision, maybe it's not even a great decision. Okay. Maybe he's a little hasty and he's like, I don't know, convicted about the television. And so he takes the TV out in the front yard and he smashes it with a sledgehammer. Okay. A little over the top, but don't be like, I cannot believe you did that. What is wrong with you? Encourage him. Be like, well, I can see where your opinion is on that matter. Encourage him. Like Mrs. P said, encourage him. Don't force him. Don't be like, we should do it this way. And the pastor says this way. And, maybe I found that the biggest thing is to what Ashley just put as I was going to say it. I found that the biggest thing is praying. And she said, my pastor's wife reminds women we are not our husband's holy. Just a second. That's a weird question. Okay, so Ashley, what is it? Ashley said, my pastor's wife reminds me women we are not our husband's Holy Spirit, let God lead them. And that's exactly right. And that's where the praying comes in. Really pray. And if you want your husband's heart to be softened towards something, pray. God can work on his heart. It's amazing. There's been many instances throughout the years where I have really been desiring something, but it was not my husband's desire. So I did not want to nag him about it. So I just started praying for God to soften his heart. And he did. He did soften his heart. Diaphanes, I don't know if you're legit or not. That was a weird question that you just gave. You asked, how can I pray? Please help. Go on to Give Me Liberty, or go on to Liberty Baptist Church YouTube, and there is a Bible Way to Heaven short video that you can find out how to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and then that will be the first step to knowing how to pray. So just go on there and watch that video. But let him spiritually lead. Even if you don't feel like he's strong as a spiritual leader, definitely definitely let him lead. I don't know if that was a legitimate question. That was kind of a weird question. You're just going to have to get over it. You asked what to do because your husband is not very strong physically, but you're attracted to other men that are physical. Well, just get over it. They're not your husband. Your husband is the one that you're married to. So you need to find him attractive. And, if you are married to someone that, that maybe is overweight, maybe you could encourage him by making healthy meals at home. You could encourage him by working out with him, encouraging him to come work out with you, keeping him active. There's different things. But as a wife, I know I control a lot of what my husband eats. I pack his lunches for work. I cook at home. So I'm the one in control. So obviously don't make fried chicken every day. Make something healthy. Make salmon and scrambled eggs, or make chili verde with pork and rice and beans and things like that. So, just healthy foods like that. So back to the, okay. Yeah, I'm going to hide this user on the channel too. We got them all coming out today. That's a weird, there we go. So back to the topic, newly saved, just show them grace by letting them grow, encouraging them, and praying for them. If he prays with you, like Holly said, pray for your husband, pray together, and also read the Bible together. This will help your husband and you grow spiritually. Exactly, it will. But let me go back up to Brittany's question. That's pretty much all I had for that. I just found out my boss is a homosexual. I started a new job a little less than a month ago, and I'm trying to figure out if I should stay or get out. Do you have any advice? Ugh. That's going to be hard, because as the world gets worse and worse, we're going to be around it a lot more. And it's going to get to be where there's going to be one at every workplace. So obviously, as Christians, we can't go out and start our own little commune. That's just weird and creepy, and we're not going to do that. We have to learn to work in the world, but not be part of the world. So I would, first of all, see what your husband wants if you're married. If you're not married, see what your parents think. But I mean, is there an option to have another job somewhere where it's better? Start putting in applications for those jobs if you really need the income. I don't know what your situation is. So it would go off of what your situation is. If you're married, if your husband even wants you to work, if you absolutely have to have the income, is there any other place that would have a better job that you could work? You need to look at it, but it would be pretty awkward. So, if there's another option, it'd probably be best. So, but if not, I mean, it's going to get worse and worse. So, I know it. As the world gets worse, then it's going to start becoming more and more predominant everywhere. So, if there's no other questions, we're not going to do a giveaway tonight because I'm going to be busy the whole week getting ready for next week. And I'm not really going to have the time. And I only have extra larges left. So all the larges have been sent out. Sky and Sandra, you should be getting your shirts tomorrow. So all the extra larges have been sent out. There are no larges, or all the larges. There are no larges left. There are no smalls, no mediums. I only have extra larges, and I believe 2X and maybe 1 3X. I'm not sure. But there are very nice shirts on Stephen B. Lettering's website. So look him up, Stephen B. Lettering on Facebook. He also just came out with a Gently Led Sisters decal that you can put on your laptop. You can put on your van. You can put on a window somewhere in your house. But that's just a way to support the show. And yeah, so there's that. I'm trying to think of what else he has. I know the shirts are really pretty. I really like the one that I have. So check those out. Once we are done with the first edition shirts, that's it. They're over. They're done. So I only have extra larges left. But we might do another giveaway for those in it would be 2 weeks. I will not be live next Monday, but I will have a premiere so you ladies can still be on here and chat with each other and things. So I just won't be able to interact with you on the chat. like I do on Monday nights here. So, okay. So anyone else have any thoughts or remember any thoughts? So Maria Tube said, remember Lot, don't pitch your tent towards Sodom. And that is one thing, we kind of get comfortable with everything. And when we are around him a lot, we're going to get more comfortable with working around him and things. So, and that's kind of what the television's done. It's indoctrinated all of us, gotten us more used to being around it, made it seem normal, which it's not. So we have to be careful of that. So anyways, go show your kids some grace this week. Go show your husband some grace. Don't be harsh with them. Just love them. And love the Lord. Love the Lord. That's the number one thing. When you love the Lord, all this other stuff falls into place. Life is not a checklist. Loving the Lord is top priority. When you love the Lord, you're going to love your husband. When you love your husband and you love the Lord, you're going to love your kids. So when you love all three of those, you're going to love your life. So go have a good week. We will see you next week.